Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Letting Go of Her podcast. I hope that everyone had a really good Christmas and a really good New Year. I do want to apologize because I know that before I took the holiday break, I did say that I would be back on January 11th, was it? I don't know, whatever last Friday was. And I didn't come back because, funny story, my husband, bless his soul, um, was cleaning out the junk drawer. Everyone has a junk drawer in their kitchen, right? Mine is in my kitchen island. It's the very top one. We actually used to have two junk drawers, but then when we remodeled the kitchen, we had to like downsize in our island to add more table space and whatnot. So now we only have one just like sliding drawer, junk drawer in my kitchen. And he was cleaning it out because he was trying to look for something, right? And I don't know about your guys' husbands, but mine, when he's trying to find something and he can't when he's trying to look for something and he can't find it, he just goes on a cleaning rampage and he starts throwing everything out. So this is what happened. I can't recall exactly what he was looking for, but he was looking for something, and he decided to clean out and reorganize the junk drawer, which, to be honest, it needed to be cleaned out. And so he was going through everything, and I wasn't really paying attention to what he was doing. I was on the couch. I was probably reading or doing something, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna let him, do what he has to do to get his mind clear. And last week, the week just went by so fast, and it was Thursday, and I'm like, oh man, I have to record an episode, right? And so I go over to my junk drawer to go and grab my microphone. And then there's a receiver that I connect to it that like picks up my voice. And it turns out he threw out the receiver. He left the microphone, but he threw out the receiver. I'm going to assume that he didn't know what it was. And he was like, okay, this looks like a piece of junk. And so he threw it away. So I wasn't able to record an episode last week because I didn't have a receiver for my microphone to pick up my voice. And granted, I could have just recorded without a microphone, but the sound wouldn't have been the very best. And I'm already lacking on the audio, and I'm already lacking on everything else that I used to do because I still have yet to find the time to try and figure that all out. Anyways, I decided to just skip. And because I'm not on social media, I didn't announce that I wasn't going to have an episode last week because of that little junk drawer mishap. But I did get asked earlier this week, like, hey, are you gonna keep doing your podcast? And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And that honestly, I had just ordered a microphone and it just arrived yesterday. But honestly, that kind of motivated me because I was like, oh, wow, are people still listening to me? We all go through our moments where it's like, am I doing the right thing? Is this worth it? Do people even care? But that gave me the push. So thank you to the friend who asked me if I was gonna be releasing more episodes because you basically answered what I've been praying to God about whether I need to continue this or not. So, anyways, on today's episode, I want to talk about a book that I recently read right at the end of the year. It's called Hunt, Gather, Parent, and don't ask me who the author is because I don't know. But you can probably find it on Amazon or Google it. It's called Hunt, Gather, Parent. It's like a huge book on parenting, and it's basically like a book. It's an author. She used to be like a newspaper writer or something. Um, and so she went to all the ends of the earth, where people still live like hunters and gatherers, basically, and figured out why is it that their kids behave way better than they do out here in the Western civilization. And she took her 3-year-old, her daughter was 3 at the time, with her to all of these different places. And yeah, just basically had them help her raise her child because she was like, I was at my ends wits with my daughter and how she was behaving and the tantrums and this and that. She wasn't listening, she wasn't eating, she wasn't sleeping. She's like, and I needed help. So I read the book. I think it came up on like a Pinterest list or something, and I was like, "All right, this sounds interesting. I'm gonna read it," not really knowing what I was getting myself into, and I found it honestly pretty interesting. Also, what I realized was that I kind of already parent like that a lot. A lot of like the things that she explained that all of these people do. I kind of already did that without even without even realizing it. And I don't want this episode to be like, well, you have to parent this way and I parent better than you, because I have no idea what I'm doing about 99.5% of the time. And the 0.5% is because they're sleeping. So I know what to do. I know what to do when they're sleeping. Um, but there was just some like interesting things. And I've noticed that I do tend to parent a little different than like a lot of my friends. Um, and so when I read this book, it was a little like reassuring, like it's okay. You are doing things okay. You're just doing things differently, right? And not what we're taught or we see out in, Western civilization, up here in, like, you would call it quote unquote modern worlds with technology and whatnot. um, because there have been times, as I'm assuming that everyone who's a mother has questioned, like, am I parenting my child right? And is my kid going to grow up being a good person or not? And I've questioned that a lot, especially like being around more moms and being around more friends. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing now, right? But what I've come to realize is that the Lord made you the mother to your children, specifically gave you those children because He knew that you would be the best fit mother for them. And so I trust in that. I trust that, one, the Lord gives me the knowledge, one, the Lord gives me the wisdom, that He gives me the patience to be able to parent my children the way that He would want me to parent them. Does that make sense? And God also gave me my children with their certain personalities and their certain attitudes and their certain, mannerisms and ways to teach me something, right? So comparing my child to someone else's is not fair to me, and it's not fair to my child, because the Lord gave that person that child to parent them, and also to maybe have the mother or father reevaluate their own ways, as well as the Lord gave me my children so that I can parent them this way, but also so that my children can teach me and help me grow, and help me see in what ways I need to change in order to be more Christ-like. And that is what I'm holding on to, because I see my children and I love my children, but there are times where I'm just like, Lord Jesus, like, those moments. But I trust in the Lord. I trusted in the Lord. I see their cute little faces, and I'm just like, okay, the Lord probably looks at me and sees my cute little face, but is also frustrated with me at the same time, right? um, but some of the things that, like, they talked about that I was already doing that I didn't even notice, were things that were kind of quite interesting. One of the things that they were big on, in all the different like civilizations that you went to, or the different countries and stuff, was that they don't entertain their kids. And I always thought that I was a horrible mother because I don't like playing with my kids. I don't. I'm not good at pretend play. I'm not good at making up scenarios or making up different things. Like, I truly, truly dislike playing with my kids, whatever it is that it is. My daughter, she likes to play more like Barbies and dolls and that kind of stuff. Playing house, hate it. My son likes more like cars and crashing things and making things destroy, hate it. Like, I am just not one to sit on the floor with my kids and play with them. I don't enjoy it. And I know that if I'm not enjoying it, they're going to see that and they're going to feel that and they're not going to enjoy it either. So, yeah, they don't entertain their kids. They go about their day and do the things that they have to do, and then just have their kids do it with them or just alongside them. If it's like age appropriate, they will have the kids help, harvest the wheat or wash the dishes or laundry or something, right? But they don't stop to like necessarily play with their kids. And they don't stop to entertain their kids. Like, they're not constantly taking them to the library, and they're not constantly taking them to the water park or the regular park. They're not taking them here, they're not taking them there. They're not buying them all these books and activities to play with. They're not buying them an abundance of toys for them to play with. They are just simply living their lives, and their kids are just living alongside them. My daughter, since she was like 2, maybe less than 2, she would always see me unloading the dishwasher and she would come and help me unload it. Would it take twice as long? Yes. Did I have to like double check to make sure she wasn't grabbing anything that can hurt her? Yes, absolutely. But she did it and she enjoyed it and she felt like she was a part of the family, right? Because I wasn't just scurrying her away to go do something else on her own. She was always there with me. My son, whenever I'm cooking, he loves to join in. So what do? I have him and like cut up something with kid safe knives, okay? Cut up something that I might need that he's not going to hurt himself with. Or I give him a bowl of flour and I let him just kind of do whatever it is, whatever concoction he thinks that he's making or doing, right? I let him mix this, I let him smash that. He loves doing that. And does it make a mess for me to clean up? Sure. Yeah, the flour is everywhere. My husband's like, why do you do that? And I'm like, it's because he wants to be a part of this, right? He wants to be a part of what I'm doing. And I allow him. My husband runs a small business, which requires me to go to the post office pretty much every day. And so my son loves helping me stack the boxes in the little cart and then putting the boxes up on the counter. Like, does it take me a lot longer? Yes. But I let him do it because he wants to feel a part of, of the big picture. He wants to feel a part of what we're doing and I allow him. And I've always been that way with both of my kids. Whenever they see me doing something and they want to do it too, I'm like, sure, Um, and I try my best because I tend to have a little bit of perfectionist mannerisms, like folding laundry has to be folded a certain way. The shirts have to face a certain way, corners and creases and whatnot. So when my daughter is like, Mom, can I help you fold laundry? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, like eye twitching, like that's not how it's folded. But I'm just like, you know what? No, she wants to be a part of this. She wants to do this with me, and I'm going to let her. And that is something that I do. Um, my husband, on the other hand, loves to play with the kids. So when they need their playing fixing, they just go to dad. And they know that. But when they need their like nurturing and their love, they come to me. And I think that um that's how it should be, right? Dads are playful, but dads are also stern and authoritative, and moms are the nurturing ones, right? Like we are the loving ones. Do I discipline my kids? Yes. But when they don't listen to me, because half the time they don't, I go to dad and dad's like, and then they listen to dad. um and that is just how it works in our family. I don't, like I said, this isn't I parent better than you and you should do this. I really don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. But this is what has worked for us in our family. And I see that my children are okay with that. They're okay with me not on the floor with them 24/7 playing because quite frankly, I don't have the time. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do all these things. And I would rather much them be there alongside me and I can have conversations with them and I can talk to them while we're doing something as opposed to us pretend playing and talking about nothing or nonsense. I see it more as like a place for me to be able to teach. Because if we're pretend playing, sure, we can role play like, hey, we don't say these things to these people or we don't do that or whatnot, right? Or I can just talk to them like normal humans. um, as we're folding the laundry or as we're cooking dinner, I'm like, hey, like how was school today? How'd you do this? And my daughter will tell me, well, this happened, that happened. And then I will tell her, well, God doesn't like this or God likes that or what would Jesus do and stuff. And so it's like a teaching experience for us. And it works for us. My kids do have toys. They do have a lot of toys, and they do play. And from time to time, I will do stuff with them. Like I will, with my daughter, with her dolls, like, brush their hair and braid them and help her change the clothes and whatnot. My son is really into Play-Doh right now. So sometimes I'll sit down and we will do some, whatever Play-Doh noodles concoction thingies that he likes to do. But I'm not doing it all the time. I also think that it's important for your kids to see you um, doing things for yourself. So my kids see me reading. My kids see me reading my Bible. My kids see me journaling in my Bible. They see me listening to scripture. They see me listening to worship music, right? And so they see that and then they want to do that, right? Kids, whatever you model is what you're teaching your kids. So if kids see me like, hey, mom takes the time to talk to God every day, then they're going to be like, maybe I should take the time to talk to God every day, right? Maybe I don't need to play 24/7. Maybe I can, sit down here on my bed and have a conversation with God. And I hope and I pray that my kids see that, and that my kids see that no matter how busy we are throughout the day, that I always make the time for the Lord. And it could maybe be 5 minutes, or sometimes it's a little bit longer. Sometimes it's like mixed in, right? Like 2 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 7 minutes there. Um, but they see that I always make that time a priority in my day. Another thing that we do that was in this book um, is we co-sleep. And I know in like Western civilization, it is very like, no, right? Like, don't sleep with the kids in your bed. Don't put them in the same room. They'll never leave your bed. They'll never this. They'll never that. They'll never whatever. Um, both my kids sleep in my bed, but it's also different. It's a different like sleeping situation because my husband gets up for work at 2:45 every morning. So my husband goes to bed early, and he also wakes up really early. So my husband and I don't sleep in the same bed. I know, controversial. I sleep in a bed with my two kids, and he sleeps in a different bed. But don't worry, our marriage is fine. This isn't because we don't like each other or anything. This is simply because I don't want to be woken up at 2:45 in the morning and every 5 minutes after that because he won't wake up on his first alarm, so he lets it snooze and go over and over and over again. Because then that's just going to drive me nuts, and I'm not going to be able to sleep. And I'm one of those people where it's like, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm just not going to go back to sleep. So for me to do that like Monday through Friday, we would our marriage really wouldn't our marriage really wouldn't survive that way because I wouldn't be getting any sleep. And my kids just sleep in the bed with me. That's where they feel safe. It's where they feel comfortable, and it just works out for us. And my mom always warned me with my daughter. Yeah, my mom always warned me, like, if you let her sleep in your bed, she's never gonna get out. And she's about to turn 7 next week, and she's still in our bed. She did at one point sleep in her own bed, and then she did at one point sleep in her own room. But once we had my son, she was like, "No, mommy," and so, and that is okay because my kids aren't gonna sleep with me in bed forever. At least I hope not. No, they won't. Eventually they'll grow up and they'll be like, ew, mom, you fart too much, or something. Like, they're not going to want to sleep with me anymore. I slept in my own room, in my own bed, but there were times where in the middle of the night where I would wake up and I would be afraid, and I would go over to my grandparents and I would go sleep in their bed. And I was maybe like 11, maybe 12 years old, like still going to their bed. And I had a pretty secure like attachment to my grandparents. So I don't think it's wrong. um, I know parents want their independence and whatnot. But my kids go to bed pretty early, and so I have a pretty good chunk of like alone time, or even before my husband goes to bed also. So like, we're surviving. We are good. This is just what works for our family, and apparently it's something that um, hunter and gatherers still do nowadays. But I guess what I want to make my point of this episode is that sometimes we tend to overcomplicate things um, when parenting should be easy. And don't write me off just yet. What do you mean parenting's easy? Do you have children? Like, yes, I do. And my children drive me nuts just as much as the next person from time to time. But I think that the most important thing that we can do to and for our children is to love our children. The more love that we show our kids, the more that they are able to accept the love that God has for them, because he is the ultimate parent. He is the ultimate father who will never, ever, ever grow tired of them, who will never, ever, ever grow tired of their whining, of their crying, of their temper tantrums, right? Because he never grows tired of us, of our whining and our crying and our temper tantrums. So at the end of the day, the way that I see it is, if you love your kids will love you back. But most importantly, they will learn how to love others, and just to express that lovers to others, and to be able to spread love to others. If anyone's ever met my daughter, my daughter is the most loving, most compassionate little girl you will ever meet. When someone is hurt, when someone is crying, when someone is, upset or anything, she's the first one there trying to make sure that they are okay. The amount of times that her teacher has told me, like, oh, someone was having a rough day today, or someone fell, or someone got hurt or something, and your daughter was the first one there, and making them feel better, and walked them here and took them to the nurse's office, or did this or whatever, is endless. Or when we've had friends, who have watched our kids, and they're like, oh man, your daughter like is always there making sure that everyone's playing nice and sharing and not getting hurt or anything like that, right? Or she's the first one to come and tell me, like, hey, they did something wrong or whatever. But I've never met a more loving child than my own child. um, and like I said at the beginning, where the Lord gives us the children that we need to see in the areas that we need to work on ourselves. I truly think that the Lord gave me my daughter, one, to test my limits, but also two, to show me to be loving and compassionate towards others the way that she is, because she never second guesses. She never thinks like, oh, well, do I really want to do that? Oh, but what if this? Oh no, they're faking it. Oh no, that, right? Like, she has so much compassion that none of that matters. She is just straight the first person there trying to figure out how to make it better. And for me, I'm always second guessing. I'm always like, is this real? Does this person truly need me? I don't have time. I don't have time to listen to you complain. Like, that are the thoughts that are running through my head. And I'm sure that those are the thoughts that run through all of our heads, half the time. We don't have as much compassion for other people. Why? Because we're selfish beings. And that's not to say that my daughter doesn't have selfish tendencies, because we do. There are many times where I have to tell her, hey, Logan, this isn't Logan's world. This is God's world. And our job here is to make you more like God. um, plenty of times, plenty of times. But that little girl has the most love for absolutely anyone and everyone. And anyone, like I said, who's ever met her can attest to that. And I'm so grateful that the Lord did give me a daughter like her, because she has taught me a lot. That you can just drop everything and go help someone, and run into someone who needs your love. And it just, reminds me, like, love your neighbor as yourself, right? Like, you would drop everything for yourself to make yourself feel better. So we can learn to drop everything to make someone else feel better. Obviously with the acceptable boundaries, right? But um, I feel that at the end of the day, if you love your kids, they'll love you back. And they'll learn to spread that love to others. And that's really all I can pray for my children, is that they can just love on others as much as I have loved on them, but honestly, to love others more, because I know that I am, flawless, and I know that at times I'm gonna unfortunately make them feel unloved. But that is why we have such a gracious and wonderful Father, who will never, ever, ever tire of us, who will never, ever not love us, and who will always be there for us. My prayer for this episode is for any moms out there who maybe feel as if they don't know what they're doing, as if they're failing their children. Um, know that you have the love of a God who doesn't think any of those things, and a love of a God who trusted you so much with these children, with his children, and knew that you would be the perfect parent for them. I pray that we stop comparing ourselves to the mother next door, to the mother that we see every day, to the mother that we admire, because you gave us our children knowing that we would be the best fit for them. And I just pray that during the times where we feel that we don't know that what we're doing, that you give us the guidance, the wisdom, but also the patience, because you show us so much patience when when we're doing things that we're not supposed to do, but yet you still love us. So I pray that we are reminded every day to just love our children as much as you love us. Today I am learning to let go of all the comparisons of motherhood, because my children are not someone else's children, and my mothering journey is not the same as someone else's mothering journey, because I am a new creation.